Hello. It is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, and today is the seventh day of Lent. I got up this morning around 6:30 and did my hour meditation, and it was the easiest so far. And I did not open my eyes until I um, was that today? Yes. Um, these days are going to start blurring together. Um, I did not open my eyes until there was 8 minutes left because I sneezed. Um, but I had this like feeling 2 minutes before that of wanting to check the time, and that would have been 10 minutes, and would have which was right on track with what every day thus far has been. That right at the 10-minute mark, I will look, and and then there'll be um, and then there'll be the last 10 minutes be difficult. Um, but today's last 10 minutes was less difficult, way less difficult, and I only opened my eyes because I sneezed. And if that wouldn't have happened, I think I probably would have made it till the alarm went off. Uh, but not that that is, I mean, I guess it is a goal, but it's not failure if I don't make it. I just am noting the progress in meditation, contemplative prayer. I I chose an hour because, well, I used to do an hour, at least an hour, every single day from 2019 to 2021, probably up until 2022, I would imagine. I'm trying to think. Definitely 2019 through January 2021. It was at least an hour a day of silence and stillness, contemplative prayer, meditation. And then Sarah asked for a divorce January 2021. And I was still pretty consistent through that because uh, I was hosting meditations. Not quite sure, because even a year or so after divorce, maybe even 2 years, I was at least doing every single Thursday because I hosted a meditation every Thursday. And that's, in those 2 years, it kind of drifted from being an hour every day to, just like some days of the week, definitely every Thursday. And then it became where it was nothing but Thursday, but definitely Thursday. And then it became that Thursday went away. It was like just skipped a week because of vacation, or a couple weeks because of something, and then like never came back to it. And then a year goes by, and barely um, barely have, like, maybe a few times throughout an entire year did I actually sit for an hour and contemplative prayer. So I've already had lots of experience with silence and stillness sits for at least an hour, but also 30 minutes would be really easy. I I can easily do a 30-minute sit, but the hour sit has been in the last 7 days, it has proven that it is more of a challenge. It's not an excruciating challenge, but it definitely is more of a challenge to remain still and there for an hour. And up until today, I mean, even including today, I have not made it a full 60 minutes. But I'm getting close. Today was 53 minutes. So after that, went to Pony Coffee and did my journal and journaled a couple pages. And then I read a section of each of the books, the Brothers Karamazov and the Universal Christ. I finished book, what is it, 6 of the Brothers Karamazov. So I finished the Elder Zoshima life story, his philosophy and readings that Alyosha is documenting, and then at the end of that section, he dies, and that section is just so beautiful and so packed with incredible theology. And then finished the first chapter of the Universal Christ, and that is also packed with incredible theology that really just speaks to my soul. And then I worked for a few hours and then went up to the church for midday prayer. I was there for an hour and a half, and then I went back to the coffee shop and worked on my computer up until 4, and then came home. And today this afternoon, worked on a new logo for City Hope, which is a city church offshoot nonprofit that is going to serve the 61st and Peoria area, not exclusively, but that is a main focus. And so I was just brainstorming and coming up with a logo idea. I got to a really strong exploration. May not be final, but definitely a very strong beginning. And also, while I was sitting there doing that, Ethan Hawke came into the coffee shop because he stars in the show The Lowdown, which is written and directed by a Tolson, and it's about the main character is a Tolson, but it's based on the true story of an actual Tolson, and Ethan Hawke plays that guy, and they are about to shoot the second season, and he was here for costume fittings and things like that, and they're going to start shooting the next season St. Patrick's Day. So that's fun, just to be chilling at the coffee shop, and Ethan Hawke strolls in and gets his cortado. So, couple things just to journal about. So the first chapter of the Universal Christ is called Christ is Not Jesus' Last Name. And the main point that this chapter is laying out is that Jesus is Christ, but Christ is more than Jesus. And Christ was there from the beginning, and Christ is a word for the primordial template or the logos, through whom all things came into being, and not one thing had its being except through him. So he also lays out, people talk about the second coming of Christ and they're waiting for Christ to come back. And he lays out that he wants to suggest that the first incarnation was the moment described in Genesis 1 when God joined in unity with the physical universe and became the light inside of everything. Yes. This, I believe, is why light is the subject of the first day of creation, and its speed is now recognized as one universal constant. The incarnation, then, is not only God becoming Jesus, it is a much broader event, which is why John first describes God's presence in the general word flesh. John is speaking of the ubiquitous Christ that Carol Houselander so vividly encountered, the Christ that the rest of us continue to encounter in other human beings, a mountain, a blade of grass, a starling. Let's see where. I'm trying to find the part where he talks about the incarnation, the first incarnation being God becoming everything, the second incarnation being Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ is the amalgam of matter and spirit put together in one place, so we ourselves can put it together in all places and enjoy things in their fullness. Jesus Christ being the second incarnation, and then the third incarnation is the church, and it is the ongoing incarnation of Christ. We are the body of Christ, and that is the third incarnation of Christ. I'm trying to find exactly where he says that, but for the first 2,000 years of Christianity, we framed our faith in terms of a problem and a threat. But if you believe Jesus' main purpose is to provide a means of personal, individual salvation, it is all too easy to think that he doesn't have anything to do with human history, with war or injustice, or destruction of nature, or anything that contradicts our ego's desires for our cultural biases. We ended up spreading our national cultures under the rubric of Jesus instead of universally liberating message under the name of Christ. Without a sense of inherent sacredness of the world, of every tiny bit of life and death, we struggle to see God in our own reality, let alone to respect reality, protect it, or love it. The consequences of this ignorance are all around us, seen in the way we exploited and damaged our fellow human beings, the dear animals, the web of growing things, the land, the water, and the very air. It took until the 21st century for a pope to clearly say this in Pope Francis's prophetic document, Laudato Si. May it not be too late, and may the unnecessary gap between practical seeing science and holistic seeing religion be fully overcome. They still need each other. What I am calling in this book is incarnational worldview. What I'm calling in this book an incarnational worldview is the profound recognition of the presence of the divine in literally everything and everyone. It is the key to mental and spiritual health, as well as to the kind of basic contentment and happiness. An incarnational worldview is the only way we can reconcile our inner world with our outer one, unity with diversity, physical with spiritual, individual with corporate, and divine with human. Skipping some. Christianity has become clannish, to put it mildly, but it need not remain there. The full Christian leap of faith is trusting that Jesus, together with Christ, gave us one human but fully accurate window into the eternal now that we call God. Christ is God, and Jesus is the Christ's historical manifestation in time. Jesus is a third someone, not just God and not just man, but God and human together. Such is a unique central message of Christianity, and it has a massive theological, psychological, and political implications, and very good ones at that. But if we cannot put these two seemingly opposites of God and humans together in Jesus Christ, we usually cannot put these two together in ourselves or in the rest of the physical universe. The Christ mystery anoints all physical matter with eternal purposes from the very beginning. Just all of that is just so on point with exactly how I see and experience the world and God. And it puts Jesus in a place that I feel even more reverent towards, and also goes along with I've always had this feeling of there's nothing wrong with worshiping Jesus, and I do, but I feel more akin to worshiping God and worshiping Christ. Jesus is Christ, but more so Christ is Jesus. And it's not that worshiping Jesus in any way is less than worshiping God, but I just personally feel more connected to the language of Christ and God than I do to Jesus, because Jesus is the physical manifestation of God, but not God in his fullness. And I know that would be probably theologically debated because Jesus is God in his fullness, but at the same time, it's both and in the both and, God, Jesus being fully human, fully God, because he's fully Christ, and Christ has been since the beginning. Jesus wasn't in the beginning, Christ was, but Jesus is also Christ, so Jesus is in the beginning, and he is in the Trinity. It's like it's a mind fuck. And so it's something that I know more than I can say. And it's kind of an almost ineffable and almost impossible to bring into pure head knowledge, and that head knowledge would never open up experiential knowledge. But I do believe that Richard Rohr very much so gets as close as one can get to language in this book. And honestly, Elder Zoshima, ultimately Dostoevsky, in The Brothers Karamazov, also expresses this. I am glad to be back in a place to read. And, this season, I understand that life comes in seasons, and I know that the season that I'm in right now will not last forever. And maybe I'll only have the mental capacity to read for the next 40 days. But I doubt that to be true. And I'm thankful for this season that I'm able to read as long as it lasts. And I hope that the neural pathways that I am creating over the next 40 days and the habits that I'm forming over the next 21 days, because it takes 21 days to form a habit, right? That these habits will expand and they will grow beyond what the limits of this 40-day fast is. But I hope that the habits continue and become that this is a defibrillator jumpstart into the regular rhythmic beating of these practices, and that it is always a discipline. But I hope and pray that this discipline turns to delight. And honestly, I already feel the discipline turning to delight. So, yeah, I'm excited and happy for that. What else do we got going on? Let's see. See if Elder Zoshima's anything in here that was. I made lots of highlights, so. His thoughts on hell are really profound and good. His encouragement to basically stay the course, even if you're the last person on earth, that the relationship with the spirit is still worth it and all there is. Yeah, there's quite a bit here. I'd have to there's 8 minutes isn't long enough to really get into it. This is a great line. Never seek any reward, for you already have a great reward upon this earth, your spiritual joy, which only the righteous man acquires. It's like that, to hold on to that the spiritual joy is the reward. Don't look for for your righteousness and for pursuing the things of God, for pursuing the face of God, for doing what is right in the eyes of God. Seek no reward for that. The joy, the spiritual joy is the reward. Seek no other joy. Seek no other reward for that. That is the advice of a monk right there. Fathers and teachers, I think, what is hell? I argue this: the suffering of no longer being able to love. Yeah, that no longer being able to love is hell. And it makes me think of Donald Trump in, it's like in my current cultural moment. Of course, that's like on my brain, but he's like, that is a maniacal man who I believe he's incapable of actual love. I don't think he loves his children or his wife, and I don't think he loves what he does. If anything, if there's anything I could say that he loves, it would be he loves power and money. But those are perverted. That's perverted love. That's not a genuine agape Christ love. That's desire and lust masked with the word love. And yeah, I believe, but I do not know that he's living in hell. He's created hell for himself, and that's why the only option is for him to do hellish things. Elder Zoshima gets into that one hears talk of hell flame that is material. I shall not go into the mystery, and do indeed fear to, but I think that if there were a material flame, then verily men would be glad of it. For thus do I dream, at least for a second, in this material torment, their most terrible spiritual agony would be forgotten by them. Which beautiful words to say. You know, people talk about the eternal burning of hell, and Elder Zoshima is saying, you know, that may very well be true, and I dare not even I fear to even get into that conversation. But in my heart, he believes that the flame is the flame of wanting, the fire of desiring spiritual union and love, but having no ability to get it, and you are constantly inflamed with that desire, and you, not even a drop is being quenched, not even a little taste. You're just in this eternal spiritual torment. And that's what he's saying here, that if the flame was material, that people would be glad for the physical burning of themselves, because at least for a second, this material torment that for at least a moment, that their most terrible spiritual agony would be forgotten. And that is a heavy, heavy line. Yeah. Which ultimately, I mean, that is, I don't know really what I believe or where I land with the spiritual realm of heaven or hell after death. I don't believe that hell looks like what the Protestant evangelical church has taught for the last decades. It's not even a taste of the truth. But more so than anything, setting aside, I fear to even talk about, as Elder Zoshima said, more than anything, I believe in the heaven and hell of now, the heaven of spiritual joy, and the hell of being unable to love. And if you are unable to love, you live in a personal hell, and you create hell for those around you. And if you find spiritual joy, then you live in heaven, and you create heaven for those around you. And those of us living in heaven work together as the body of Christ towards the garden city of the future paradise here on earth.